But I've looked at doing that with people that have like small apartment complexes where I'll sign on the loan and take 10% equity without investing anything in the deal.
Right.
Yeah. And people do that on $100 million, $200 million deals. That's where it probably gets really fun. Like you're just making 10% of a $200 million deal just because you are who you are. Good morning. Welcome to the Real Estate Podcast. Monday morning, Alex and I back at it, excited. Didn't take a day off over the weekend, I know that. But today we wanted to talk about real estate financing, and there's probably 1,000 different ways we can go. And we like to keep things pretty loose. So it's not like a clear-cut script we have every time, but let's just dig into financing. And I guess a good way to start, Alex, is like you've been learning a lot over the last couple of years on financing. What I guess would you say is like critical for people to understand that they probably have no idea about financing within real estate?
To understand all the costs that go in on the front end of financing. So
Yeah.
that was one thing I didn't understand, and one thing I was surprised about when we closed our first deal was these closing costs that I had to pay to the lender.
Sure.
And that we had to pay elsewhere that was extra money out of our pocket.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's critical. That's critical because you calculate the numbers that you're going to need to bring to closing, and you think that that's what it is. It's going to be $15K, and a lot of times it ends up being $25,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's 40% different, right? And so walk us through what costs have come up, and did that ever screw you on a deal?
No, it didn't screw us. Like we had to pay the points up front. Every deal that we've done together, we've taken down with hard money first.
Sure.
We had to pay those points up.
Talk about points because people might not know what they are.
So a point is 1% of the financed amount, right, of the principal. So if it was $250,000 that we were getting loaned, a point would be $2,500.
Right.
Right. And so with hard money, we were paying what, 1.5, 2 points?
Yeah. Some
up
people
front.
pay 3. That gets into $7,500.
Right. And so that was an extra cost that I wasn't accounting for, going into it for the first time. And then also there were other things like taxes. And I think in a couple of our deals, we could have taken money from the seller that could have been applied for taxes. However, we elected not to put that towards taxes and keep that ourselves and put it into our pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And then therefore not fully understanding that, realizing that at the end of the year we had to pay, the full amount in taxes.
Sure.
Yeah,
it's a gamble when you're operating that way because, and I thought about this yesterday. So every time I close a real estate brokerage deal, I technically, if I wanted to be super safe, would put 20% into a savings account and save that for taxes. But
Yeah.
I'd rather invest all of that money and get the 20% at the end of the year.
Yeah. No, I believe the same thing.
Yeah.
Is why would we put that money away for 10 months and let it just sit there and earn 0.017% interest when we can have it working for us?
Yeah, you get it. Yeah, so points. There's things that we've done to get the seller to pay closing costs that can count towards those points. Mm-hmm. And then one thing that I always talk about is the double close versus the assignment. So if you're doing a double close with a wholesaler, you're potentially paying both closing twice.
Right.
And that can turn into $12,000. So I guess what else? Like what else for this is a little bit more focused towards straight investor, like a first-time home buyer, house hacker. What would you say that would be important for them to understand about financing?
I've never, from personal experience, I've never done a traditional loan.
Sure.
We haven't done any FHA loans. We haven't done, except for when we were doing cash out refis. But so, I mean, honestly, I don't know, I really kind of just look at it from the point of view of our experience, which is taking hard money first and then doing a cash out refi later.
Sure.
It's just been our strategy.
And it's the same for investors. I mean, it's hard to know what to touch on sometimes because some of this stuff comes so naturally to us. But the simple example of people not realizing that, they don't have to bring $200,000 to buy the house. They have to bring 3.5% of that or 5% of that. Those simple things. And then you think about the closing costs, the prepaid on the taxes and on the insurance, all the fees with the title. I'm glad you touched on that because those numbers are critical. What I see is they typically land between 4 and 7% of the loan, and that's all the closing costs. And so that's a number, if you're having a 5% down payment, now it turns into 9, it's almost double.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it, and it's understanding that it's not as simple as just having a down payment with an FHA loan. Yeah,
again, you got to get qualified, and my mind goes everywhere. Like the options that I see for financing are creative as you want to be, straight down the path as you want to be. There's government backed, which can be the FHA and the conventional loans, and then you can get into hard money, which is typically 10% down, maybe 20% now with COVID. Higher interest rate, higher points, 1 to 2 year term. Then you can go to community banks where you'll have a 5.5% interest rate if a conventional loan's, let's say 4. So it's like a 1.5% higher or 150 basis points. And then those will typically be a 25-year amortization loan. So the payments are based on a 25-year payment schedule, but the balloon payments due in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And then the other thing's owner financing, and you can get as creative as you want with owner financing. You can mess with the down payment, the interest rate, the amortization. I don't know if I've ever talked to you about this, but I have this idea of getting sellers that will owner finance for 50 years, 60 years, and It for the right person, that could be a great deal. They get paid for 60 years, right? But if you do that, it's almost like you can pay whatever price you want for the property. So that's another way that can be a win-win. You can pay a much higher price because your payment's based over such a long period of time. It'll probably cash flow if you double your amortization period, And I don't think a lot of people ever consider that. And maybe sellers just won't do that.
Let's talk about this. I think that this is a problem that a lot of people or a lot of investors first getting into real estate full-time experience. And this is something that I've experienced and still experience as an issue because it can get really, it's a rocky road trying to get financing when you're, self-employed, especially for those first 2 years, right? So that was something that I experienced, right? They wanted to see 2 years of tax returns that showed X amount. And maybe because I filed my tax, 2019, for example, I filed my taxes a certain way and screwed myself. And so now it's, I got to wait another 2 years before really being able to, a lender feeling comfortable based on those two numbers, right?
Sure.
I've got a great credit score. My credit score is 750 plus. However, due to the fact I'm self-employed and income fluctuates, it's an issue in the lender's eyes. And so that's what I've really liked about utilizing hard money up front and then having a good partner like yourself to be able to cash out refi down the road because at least up front, our track record is enough for a hard money lender to feel comfortable lending to us, right? Having flipped X amount of properties, having owned this many rentals, having managed this many doors, makes them feel comfortable lending to us so that they feel like we know what we're doing. Plus we have these relationships, right? And it's really based on our experience in the deal as opposed to my credit score and my tax return. Up front to be able to secure the property. And that's what I've really liked because to me, that's the most important thing anyways, is being able to, take care of this deal and it's a good enough deal to be able to get a loan on it. And the reason we were getting hard money with 10% down is not we were getting 90% LTV, loan to value, but we were actually getting 90% of the purchase price because the purchase price was below that 75% LTV.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so it's important to understand all the aspects of what options you have. And when I was first getting started, I couldn't get a loan anywhere. And I had already been in the business for 2 years. I was really wanting to buy properties. And then when I figured out hard money, I just went wild. And it was because, oh, wow, like I can just go do as many as I want, and I get a 2-year term, which I was taking the bet that I'll be able to refinance these 2 years from now. I can't do it now, but I will in 2 years. So it's critical to understand all the aspects, all the options that you have. And then, like what you said, you got to get yourself around the right people. Because like for me, for example, with you, I can help you on getting these things permanently financed, and maybe you're helping find the deal. So it's just everyone can have a different role and bring a different value to the table. A lot of times people, if you get in a situation where you have the ability to help people refinance, you can just go do that and take 10% of the deal just to take it, right? And like for me with you, obviously it's different. Like with partners that you want to be growing together and add different values, like you just throw in my value, you throw in your value. But I've looked at doing that with people that have like small apartment complexes where I'll sign on the loan and take 10% equity without investing anything in the deal.
Right.
Yeah. And people do that on $100 million, $200 million deals. That's where it probably gets really fun. Like you're just making 10% of a $200 million deal just because you are who you are.
Right.
And you're signing on to that loan. Like you're guaranteeing it. So it's not just that easy. You have to find the right people that you trust and know can run it, because if they don't run it right, you could be in a really, really bad spot. So there's a lot of risk there too.
Yep. Let's talk about hard money for people who may not know.
Sure.
What it is, what it looks like, and what the value is there, but also, the risks that are involved with it, and it's not principal and interest and taxes all rolled into one payment. It's interest only, right? Mm-hmm. And it's usually at a higher % interest rate. I mean, what interest rate are we typically getting?
We can get it down to like 7.9. I think it starts at like 12. And it's a different world. You got to be careful because, they're hardcore money. I've had a deal where we were running up against the timeline and they weren't going to extend it, and we were going to have to get $300,000 in the next 60 days because they weren't going to extend the loan, and luckily we sold it. But
you're talking about getting out?
Yeah, because it's a 2-year term,
right.
Typically when you do a loan, you pretty much forget about it. You make your payments, and 5 years into the loan, 7 years into the loan, you don't know how much time you have left on your loan. Most of the time, you don't really care, but because it's 20 years from now.
Right.
But when it's a year or 2 years and it's 6 months, 3 months, that starts getting intense, And I like putting myself in those situations. I like the pressure. I like the challenge. I think it makes me rise above it.
Well, but you go into those not because you like the pressure and you like the challenge. I mean, what is the benefit of going into that initially?
Yeah, well, it's a 10% down payment versus 25 or 20, so it's
right.
half. And
I hope you don't just go do riskier things and pay higher interest just because it's.
Well, I'm telling you, dude. I was stressed out the other day, and I'm like, I don't know how. I can't remember what it was. I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna solve this. And Lexi's like, Matt, you love this. Like, you do this to yourself on purpose. And I was like, oh yeah, actually, you're right. I do love this. I do love the challenge and knowing that a loan's due in 30 days and I got to go out there and solve it. But I don't put myself in that position just to do it. But by taking that risk, there's always a reward. The more risk you take, the more reward is going to come along with it. So there's a huge risk in taking a $300,000 loan on a 1-year term at 7.8% interest, because who knows, right? But I believe that
coronavirus hits.
Yeah. Shoot, man. I don't know what would have happened if I don't know what would have happened if coronavirus would have hit during this. So
that was pretty gnarly, huh? When coronavirus hit, we were in the middle of refinancing a home, and one of our rentals, and our lender said, at first he said, No, you guys are good. We're still going to proceed forward with this. We're stopping all new construction loans. We're stopping loans on, restaurants and bars. And then 2 weeks later, we got told all loans are ceasing and they're not doing any new loans.
Yeah. And for me, like, I've been in this business for 10 years and I've studied and talked to people and thought about market crashes, market conditions, and to see it come to reality, like, this is what everyone talks about when they say you don't know what it's going to be that's coming, or you don't understand, like, things just shut off, whatever it may be. We're lucky, I feel like, in the sense that, like, we're just getting after it and business is going well, where that's probably not the case for a lot of people 100% in real estate. But, like,
we're doing fine, and it seems as if residential and even commercial multifamily real estate is doing all right.
Yeah, and who knows how long that will.
Right, but financing is still not where it was.
Well, that's what I was gonna get at. Is like, it's interesting when you think about this. Is like everyone that's living through this, everyone in the world right now is experiencing this, right? But, like, my kids, or maybe the next generation of kids, they might have no idea, like, that something like this could happen. Like, I don't know if life's going to go back to normal or not, right? But it could, and we're always going to have this in our mind, like, oh, something like that could happen. So we have to be careful on everything we do a little bit more. And so, like, these things stick with you, right? And that's what's interesting, just maybe on a totally side note, but how generations are different because they have such different experiences. Like, George, my son, might have no idea that a virus could work the way it did and never consider that as an option. Now we feel like anything can happen. Like, who knows, especially with everything else that's going on. So I don't know, man. It's just it's fascinating to, like, live through these experiences and see how the market reacts. And we're lucky because we're hustlers, and so when things like this happen, there's opportunities for hustlers. And as far as financing goes, I would imagine that new types of financing come out because of everything that's going on.
You were stressing, man, when Rona hit at first. Remember, and I kept trying to bring your spirits up, like, now's the time to expand. Now's the time to expand. And you're like, dude, you just don't get it. Like, we're in a completely different world in terms of financial situations here. Yeah,
it changed quick. Yeah, man. I mean, I have a lot of stock, and my stock was way down, and I have lines of credit, so that was a whole different experience.
But it was the time to expand. You're okay.
Yeah, I'm great. Yeah, I feel good about it. I feel like we're thriving as a business, which is amazing to feel like that when things aren't going well. This is what could move us to the next level potentially.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, not much has changed for me from January till now in terms of, like, that's what,
Yeah. I guess it just depends on, I mean, I would say that most people would not say that.
I know.
You're just probably in a unique spot with what you do.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I know that. I'm just telling you, like.
No, it's cool. No, that's cool. It's because for me, I was doing coffees and lunches literally 5 times a day. That's gone.
Life's much better. There's no traffic in Austin, Texas.
Yeah. There's pluses and negatives, and everyone has different opinions on it. And I think you and I are just like, let's just not even think about it. Let's just go work harder.
Mm-hmm. Well, and back to financing. I mean, we need to refi 4 properties right now: Raintree, Dubuque, 8plex, triplex. So this is, a hurdle that we're about to have to face. Mm-hmm. Being able to get these, refinanced right now. I don't know if you've talked to any lenders about that recently.
Somewhat recently. I'm working on it, and that's another thing is interest rates are amazing right now.
Yeah, but the thing is the game has changed. We went back to our lender. I did, to touch base to see if we could get that refi going again. Mm-hmm. And he said that we needed, which we can do, but this was not in place 5 months ago, is we needed 12 months of reserve payments.
Right.
In a separate account.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to do that.
No.
On our 8-plex, that's like $50,000. So
yeah, little less, but yeah, $40,000.
Yeah, so yeah, man, lenders are all the things that we're feeling and experiencing. So are the other people. Like, they're scared too, or whatever they're feeling. Like, their whole world's changed as well, which is changing the terms in some ways, and hopefully we can just find other banks. That's what you got to do, is keep all options open. I would always have 2 or 3 hard money lenders that I was working with. I really only had one permanent type financing lender, and then I had one community bank, but I'm working on getting the second one. And it's just important to have multiple options and multiple people. The reason I got my hard money rates so low is because I would just tell them, hey, this guy's giving me, I've got this guy down to 2 points and 8.5% interest. Can you beat that? And the way I did it was, if he would beat it, then I'm good. I'm not trying to take it back to this other guy and say,
yeah,
because there's some integrity that you have to have with this.
Yeah, I mean,
want to be smart and get a good deal.
Yeah, it's about relationships.
Trying to just bounce
whoever can give us the better deal, and whoever we feel we can build a better relationship with, is who we want to roll with.
Right. Well, it's not necessarily the better deal. It's a combination of both.
Right.
Yeah. Because I could go back to this other guy and get 1 point.
It's all about the relationship. We don't want it just for this one. We want to do it with the next 20.
Right.
So
yeah, that's critical. I think we could talk about any type of financing people want to go into. I'm happy to dig into that.
Dig into if you don't mind, into that loan that you just did with Tommy.
Oh yeah, so that's we have this guy Tommy that we work with. We're trying to start a branch of our company.
We have started
it, Tree Capital, and it's not hard money, it's private money. So it's not like we have this program that says 8.9% interest, 2 points. Here's the term sheet. It's just like deal by deal basis. Let's look at it. Tommy had a client that owns a washateria in Austin, and they also own a really nice $1 million building downtown. And they had some plans to redevelop this building. And before COVID hit, they had the money coming in from their laundromat, and now they don't. And so they just needed some quick money to be able to pull this project off. And it wasn't a ton of money. They needed $17,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I loaned them the money, and we came up with some terms that made sense for me and for them, and it was a really good deal.
What were the terms for you?
I don't know the exact interest rate, but I know that they're paying. So I lent them $17,000. They're paying me back $1,580 a month for 9 months, and then when 9 months ends, they pay me back my whole loan. 15. So it's ultimately it's like a 50 or 60% interest rate on that loan.
Right.
So 15 times 9.
Yeah, it's 84%.
Yeah, so it's a huge.
And in 9 months, you're getting 84 APY in 9 months.
Yeah,
and the loan is backed by what?
Backed by their real estate. Yeah.
You have a senior lien position.
Mm-hmm. But things could go wrong. Like, they could maybe not make payments, and then we have to go through the whole foreclosure process.
But how much is that real estate worth?
It's worth like $1 million.
So you essentially have a senior lien position on $1 million worth of real estate for $17,000.
Right. Yeah. So it's a great deal. Yeah,
right.
It's a great deal. And I like to diversify. I tried to give my buddy Jeff yesterday some money for some cars, and he wouldn't take it. But that's something I think people should do, is have different. And I've tried to do it within real estate, like diversify within owning real estate, brokerage, property management, lending, construction. What else? Wholesaling. And then, have some loans outside.
Tree Capital.
Yeah. I mean, we're putting an RV back behind our house that someone's moving into. Just like to have a lot of things going on.
Right.
Yeah.
But that is another, back to finance. And I mean, that's a great way to make money, man.
It's a great, yeah, dude, it's a really good way. And for some reason, people don't like to do it because they just want to be tied to the real estate. But I think when you can break your mind off from having to be tied to the real estate and you realize that the returns can be just as good, if not better, I've never really got into purchasing non-performing notes, but that's a crazy business where people love.
Yeah.
And you purchase these notes that aren't performing, and then you turn them into where they are performing, or you take them over. People make a ton of money doing that.
Yeah, buying and selling notes.
Yeah. I've looked into it, but it's a different world, man.
Buying them for 16 cents on the dollar, then selling them for 70 cents on the dollar.
Yeah. Or just getting them performing and keeping them, and they're worth 100% of what they were worth.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think, my opinion is to, depending on what your strategy is to get lined up with the lenders first. So you might not even have a deal, but you got to get the hard money lender, all the documentation, everything that they need, and then you're prepared to move forward. Also, you have to understand that the deal's never done until it's closed. And you can't never trust a lender. Someone told me that.
They're your best friend, right?
Yeah. Yeah, until something bad happens. Never trust a lender. Sorry, all my lender friends. But, the reality is, when times change, these guys get hardcore, and there's all different types of lenders. The hardcore is more on the community bank type situation. A typical lender, they're not going to be calling you for their money because they're selling that loan off to someone else, but they might not be able to close the deal. That's what I mean, is that get everything you need to the hard money, and then you've got to constantly ask them every day, what else do you need? What else do you need so we can close this deal? Do you see anything that could come up? You have to just ask these questions, and I've seen it time and time again that things do come up, and I'm like, well, I'm glad I asked that question, because if I didn't, then it could have taken me another week to get what they need, and we don't have another week to close. Seller's going to want $10,000 more.
Yeah, it's never straightforward. There's always
But that's why, once you find that person that's good, you just keep rolling with them, and you know that they're going to get it done.
Right.
So, I don't know, man. What do you think about that? Never trust a lender.
I like it. It's a term used, in my opinion, not for just lenders.
Yeah.
But
never trust anyone.
People change. It's
yeah. And I heard it from, like I said, I would always go ask people about market corrections and crashes, and I've talked to people that had multi-million dollars worth of real estate, and they said, these guys were my best friends until things started going wrong.
Right.
And you could build an entire business, man, and you could have a $1 million, $2 million, $3 million loan, and your life could be ruined if the times don't add up, if the times don't match up right. If they call this note due, and maybe you're worth $5 million, but they're calling a $3 million note due, and you don't have that money, and you can't just go sell these properties to get $3 million right away. You might have to fire sale them for $2 million, and still owe $1 million. You could get screwed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky game, and I think that the issue is that it's always changing. Exactly what I mean. Like back in February, it's completely different now than it was then.
Right.
Times have changed.
Sure.
New rules, new regulations,
and they're changing still. It's not like these lenders had this whole plan of this is how it's all going to work out.
They're just rolling with the punches
every day. Yeah,
they're just rolling with the punches, and times are changing, and as times change, that's what I mean though, is that it's always changing. It's what the last loan you did may not be the same thing you're going to do here.
Yeah, 100%. And meanwhile, like we're saying, interest rates are all time low. I had a client close on a house last week. 2.9.
That's crazy,
dude.
30-year fixed.
Yeah, my lowest rate's 5.5.
Yeah.
But so that's what's exciting, is I think we can try and get those rates down when we refinance.
I hope so.
Yeah, but that's a big deal, man. If you get into inflation and everything, with the way that we're printing money right now, the dollar becomes worth less, and real estate is a hedge. Real estate keeps up with that. And so as the dollar becomes worth less, real estate becomes worth more. And if you can get your interest rate down really low at the same time, that's a pretty big win.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's all I got for today.
Me too, man. Do you have any advice for people looking for a lender right now or trying to figure out, what direction to go?
I mean, people can reach out to us always. We're happy to set you up with all the lenders that we know. My advice is to get some lenders, get on their list, get pre-approved with them, give them all your documentation, work through that process where you're asking them what they need, what's next. Never just think that the deal's done. Every day you got to stay on top of it. So find those good people. We're happy to share them. We have lenders. We're in Austin, but we have lenders all over the country. I've got this one guy that's a friend of mine named Duke, and he's the financing master. He can pull off $100 million deals. Mm-hmm. Super smart, and he's a great guy, so he'll give you his honest opinion and not just try and close you.
Right.
So
sweet. Also, if you're an agent looking for a brokerage or you're looking to switch brokerages and you'd like to learn more about Teifke Real Estate, click the link in the bio, and we'll get back to you same day.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Thanks, guys.
All right. Y'all have a good week.